5 books and counting. The tales from the Omni Vault continue to expand as a universe. Go ahead and check the links down in the description to get your copies today. Well, not my description. Here's Omni Viewer's description. Look, I'm just trying this out as an idea, okay? Shut up. Anyway, on with the video. Omni Viewer recently released a video titled Within the Room. It's a video response, not necessarily a response, an inspired video based on a comment he left on my recent video about Kong's best and worst moments in Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, Omni Viewer explains it in the video, but I'll add it here. Within the Room is a reference to the idea of looking for evidence inside a room where a dead body is laying. Can you explain why there is a dead body in the room based on what is in the room? Can you find all the necessary evidence to explain it? And if you can't, then more likely as not, you then need to leave the room to then explain a murder, rather than just someone who's died. Essentially, if you need to leave the room, you're then expressing a sense of foul play. And the same thing can be done with a scene in the film. If you can explain what's happening in the film with stuff that's in the film, then the film has done its job. The story in the film has done its job. If you can't, and you then need to leave the film to find extant information to explain what the hell is going on, the film hasn't really done its job. Which actually goes a lot further than just what I was talking about in my video. But for reference, I was talking about the scene where Kong goes to hit Godzilla in the head with an axe and then doesn't? Question mark? I had a lot of questions surrounding that. I didn't really find the answers to them in the scene or in the rest of the film. Omni Viewer has come up with some good answers, I think. Some hilarious answers. The idea of why didn't Kong attack Godzilla after he knocked him out? And Omni Viewer's was, oh, he's taking a breather. And then when Godzilla got up, he then attacked him again. So just the idea of Kong waking up, or getting up from being knocked away, seeing Godzilla knocked out, going, oh my god, thank God. Whew, well, that's lucky, isn't it? I'll just lean up against this building here. Wow. Wow, I thought I was in really a lot of trouble there. Oh my god, he's moving. Oh, right, where's my axe? Oh my god, my axe. Where'd it go? It flew away. Where's my axe? Is it, what's this? A crane? That kind of looks like an axe. I'll use that. And you know what? The jumping attack worked quite well last time. Let's climb this building and then we can get the jump going. Right, here we go. And then that's where we find him. I like the idea of that. It's funny and really annoying that they didn't show it. I can't even remember what the point I was trying to make now was. Oh, that was it. The idea of Omni Viewer stays within the film and within the scene to then try and explain what's going on. And as some explanations are quite good and some of them are quite funny, there's some which I'm not so on. Like the Godzilla breath, which is now just a laser beam in this film, is magnetically attracted to the axe. Which, looking back at the scene, it absolutely has to be, because Kong starts off with the axe on his left, the axe head on his left. He then raises it up, swings it over his head, and you can even see in the shot the axe is now on his right. Like the axe blade is on his right, and the Godzilla's laser breath is actually going behind his arms. Behind Kong's arms to hit the axe blade. So Kong has swung it all the way around his body, and the laser has followed it all the way. It has to be absolutely magnetically attracted at that point, because it would be completely stupid for Godzilla to not be to be doing that rather than hitting Kong. But then it brings up the question of why is it? And that just isn't answered. It's just like we just have to assume, we just have to accept that it is. Which just creates this roadblock of, when you look at ancient ruins, You see ancient ruins and you go, wow, how did they do that? And to most people, especially when you first discover ancient ruins, you don't really know. You can guess. You can sure as hell guess. But you will never know. It's only when like proper archaeologist comes along and starts digging up the areas and finding evidence everywhere. That's when we will hopefully find out. But otherwise, you're just at this roadblock of, we can guess, but we will never know. With storytelling, that shouldn't really be a thing unless it's deliberate. By which I mean, if you're reading a murder mystery and there's a mystery to be solved, then you expect there to be a lot of stumbling blocks in the form of the investigator going, oh, I found a thing. What does this thing mean? Oh, I could hold this up for later. I'll examine it so that the reader and the audience also see it and examine it. But I don't have an answer for it yet, so I'm just going to put that in my back pocket and leave it for later. And then maybe he gets an explanation for it. Normally he does, because again, it's a narrative. It's going to get explained. But then there might be other narratives like... oh, who the hell knows? Some fantasy genre where there's an ancient civilization who's left loads of ruins around the place. And it's all a big mystery that you'll never find out about because that's just part of the background of the lore of the story. But when you're watching something like Godzilla vs. Kong, and you're watching Kong hit Godzilla in the head with an axe, and you're sitting there going, okay, why did that happen? Why did that happen? It shouldn't be so hard to understand what's going on. And we shouldn't really need someone as narratively talented as Omni Viewer to start picking it apart and trying to understand it for us all. To go, right, so based on this, you could probably do this, and then this will go over here, and then this bit, we'll just have to accept it does that. Which then goes into the point I was actually trying to make earlier, and then completely got this sidetracked by myself from. The amount of times where I will put questions like this into my videos. Like, why did Kong jump off of the aircraft carrier when Godzilla blasted... I don't even know what word that was. Blasted through the aircraft carrier to attack Kong with his breath. Because my big thing is, Kong doesn't know what that is. Kong has never seen Godzilla before, let alone seen him use his breath. So how does Kong know to get out of the way when there's just this glow under the water? It's a question that I struggle to answer myself. Now that I've said it, someone will probably give me an answer. But the amount of people who've probably replied in my comments with, well, in the novelization, in the comic, in the commentary, there's a comment from Adam Wingard, there's this, there's that, and it's all extant information from other sources. We are no longer in the room, we have left the room. We've gone next door, we've gone down the road, we are somewhere else entirely. We're no longer trying to explain what's happening in the film with what's in the film, we're now trying to explain what's happening in the film with meta information, essentially. Especially in regard with comments from Adam Wingard, because, as I said in my, rather nastily said in my video, Adam Wingard has said on occasions that Godzilla was tired when he was fighting Mechagodzilla, and people have actually gone to lengths to prove that. There was I think I saw a Reddit post somewhere where they were comparing Godzilla's breath from earlier in the film to when he was fighting Mechagodzilla, and going, look, it's not the same, it's not the same potency, it's a bit more blurry around the edges, therefore he's clearly weaker. Only for then to Adam Wingard to then like backtrack on his comments and say, oh no, I was only joking. And this is again the other problem with extant information. If that extant information changes, then you can't use that as an information source anymore. The explanation is gone. Whereas the film is the film and the film is the film. Unless George Lucas gets involved with it, that film ain't changing. That's just what it is. Weirdly, I say weirdly because it was completely random. Sunday night, making my dinner, thought to myself, what film do I want to watch? What do I want to watch whilst I'm having my dinner, making my dinner and having my dinner? And on Amazon Prime, I saw Robin Hood Men in Tights. But this is going somewhere, stay with me. I saw Robin Hood Men in Tights and I put that on. And there's a character in it called Blinkin, who's blind. And for most of the time, he's just comic relief. In fact, all of the time, he's comic relief. There's even a bit in it where they make fun of people with disabilities, handicaps, whatever you like to call them. People with handicaps having special abilities. I.e., he catches an arrow mid-air because he said he heard it coming. But then they take the mickey out of that by saying, well done. He goes, who said that? Which is, I found hilarious because you can make a direct comparison to Jaya in Godzilla vs. Kong, a deaf girl who for some reason can hear things, like she heard Godzilla coming before Godzilla was actually within range of the radar of the ships they were on. What? That doesn't make sense. That is just, look, a deaf person, they have superpowers, right? But the other comparison I wanted to make, in Robin Hood Men in Tights, they have this dance scene. It's the song of the film, basically. We're men in tights, tights. I should edit that out. I'm going to leave that in. But in that dance routine, Blinkin is there. Blinkin, the blind guy who can't see what everybody else is doing. So, at numerous times in this dance scene, you see people like grabbing him and pulling him into position, or turning him around and pushing him into place. And several times, I think twice exactly, he punches people in the face when everybody else is throwing a punch like to the side, and he just throws it too far and hits the guy next to him. If you watch that scene in isolation, you will understand that guy is blind. You also understand that he's friends with the guys around him, because the guys around him are helping him into position and getting him into place where he needs to be. And also, when he hits them, they don't immediately hit him back. They understand that he didn't mean to do it. All of this information and more is garnered just in isolation, purely from the scene, purely from the direction of the actions of the characters. In a comedy film from 20 years ago. 20? 30 years ago. You're then watching Godzilla vs. Kong, and I'm having questions about what exactly these giant monsters are doing. Because because I watched the film and I got to this point in this film, and I'm just like, I'm done. My cynicism is overflowing. I'm watching this film thinking to myself, they don't have a plan for this, really. Oh, they probably have it all choreographed out, but there's no direction to it. It's like Kong is fighting Godzilla because Kong needs to fight Godzilla. Then when Godzilla gets knocked out, Kong stops. Then when Godzilla gets up again, they start the fight again. And you can put all the explanation into the film of, well, he probably took a breather. Which is why he ended up on top of a building with a crane in his hand. Or maybe that wasn't as long as the time we thought it was. Which again, fair enough. Film time jumps all over the place, which is actually a problem with Godzilla vs. Kong. I really need to re-examine Godzilla vs. Kong at some point. Like a full-on proper examination. But yeah, there is a problem with Godzilla vs. Kong with its time, because there are some big time jumps that don't seem to be addressed, which I'm guessing is down to like a massive script re-editing. But there's also the other, it has scaling problems, and then those scaling problems bleed into the time problems, because again, as I examined in my Great Sadness series, the amount of time it would take for Godzilla's roar to travel down the hole he made to the Hollow Earth is something ridiculous, like hours. So Godzilla would roar. There would be many, was it minutes or hours? I don't know. I have to look back at the video. But a long time would pass between Godzilla roaring and Kong hearing it. And I think it's definitely something like 13 hours for Kong to fall down that hole back to the surface of the Earth, or vice versa. What was I saying? Time. You can add into these explanations of these scenes the problems. It comes down to We don't really know what's going on, so we have to make it up in our head. But as soon as we start making it up in our head, we are then filling in the gaps that the writers left open. And this isn't a presentation in a university where you deliberately leave gaps that you know the answers to, so that people asking questions can basically fall into those gaps and you go, aha, I have the answer. No, that's not what's happening here. The writers just didn't have answers to that. They just left those gaps open because they couldn't be bothered to fill them. Or then maybe they didn't have time to, or maybe where the film was so chopped up, they just ended up with holes. And I think that's really what I wanted to say here, I think. Omni Viewer did a very good job of doing the writer's work for them. Why did Godzilla's laser breath follow the axe? The film does not tell us. Omni Viewer came up with an answer. Why did Kong go for a kill shot, but then not kill Godzilla when he fell over? The film does not answer that. Omni Viewer had to come up with an answer. So on and so forth. When I examine Godzilla killing the monsters, and I see patterns, I see that well, I think everybody watching that film went, oh, this is clearly a metaphor for climate change. When I watch it and I think this is clearly a telling of the Book of Revelation, this should have been Godzilla and the Book of Revelation, the film. When I watch a scene, the scene in the cabin, and everybody's going, oh, who is this guy, Mark Russell? I don't know who he is. And in the scene, he says, oh, the Orca was a postgraduate project. A postgraduate project being a master's degree, which means that Mark Russell is a Dr. Mark Russell, master engineer. So he's a clever sod. And again, it's just stuff like that is in the film for people to find and make sense of. You go to Godzilla vs. Kong and there's just gigantic, well, titanic gaps which are left open and are never to be filled in except by people trying to make sense of the film just so that they can enjoy the film. And for me, I can only do that so much before I realise this film is no longer a wall with some holes plastered over. It's now a lump of plaster with some bricks in it. And I think that's where I'm going to end this video because I don't know how else to end this video. Hopefully this hasn't been too rambly and hopefully I've made some kind of sense. I'm interested to see what everybody has to say. Maybe you guys can actually point out the answers. Maybe you guys can watch Godzilla vs. Kong without maybe you guys can watch Godzilla vs. Kong with a clear mind and actually see things that I've missed. At some point in the future, I do want to do another breakdown of Godzilla vs. Kong, and I do want to reference stuff that people have said to me over the years with regards to it. Whether I'll find them all, that's another question, but I'm going to try. Okay, now I'm definitely ending the video. Hope this has been entertaining. Last but not least, thank you for watching.